Hey guys, tuning back in to Getting Real with the Cockney Buddha. Thanks for the support and the listening, guys. I really, really do appreciate it. All those that are getting some benefit out of this, I really, really, it's a blessing to me. And like I've said before, I've been getting some really nice comments, and it's if it just affects one person, then it's all worth it. But I wanted to put a podcast out there right now, kind of evolving around, well, it is evolving around the short that I put out on my YouTube channel. So go and check out my YouTube channel, guys, as well. Go and subscribe and get those analytics up, because I tell you what, it's what's going to help me get to other people out there and get seen a little bit more by others. And you don't know what you're doing about helping others by doing it. It doesn't cost anything just to hit that subscribe and like button, guys. So if you have seen the short, you know what this is going to be about. If you haven't, and of course go and take a look at it, but it's all based around the Lotus Flower. So let's get right into it, guys. So anyway, if you have gone and, like I said, if you have gone and seen the short, you know what this is going to be kind of about. But if you haven't, I want you to think about something. If you can sit there and think and compare yourself with the Lotus Flower, your life with the Lotus Flower, and you're probably looking at your phone or wherever you're listening to this right now, thinking, "What the heck is he talking about?" Right? But in Buddhism, the Lotus Flower is used as a symbol for a reason. And that reason is the fact that lotus flower that you're seeing on top of the water didn't get there by growing through the perfect channels, so to speak. I don't even know how to put this, because it actually grew from muck, right? It grew from muck. Without that muck, there is no lotus flower. So it's about acknowledging. It's about acknowledging, guys. It's about acknowledging the fact that the muck is there and the lotus flower is there because of the muck. You can't have one without the other. So if you look at your life in a manner of trying to keep up, especially with the ego, guys, with the ego, yeah, trying to push out something that we may not be, because the ego can feel threatened. And whenever the ego starts feeling threatened and we don't want someone else to see certain insecurities that we may have or something like that, you know what? The ego kicks in and wants to protect that. So it starts to try and push out something that we ain't. And because it doesn't want others to see that. But you know what? Everybody has their muck, guys. Yeah? When we're born, we're not born with the programs or the belief systems or anything like that. That doesn't exist on when we're born. Even though there has been studies done, guys, where they're saying now that you can pick up on trauma while within the womb, within the mum's womb. You can pick up on that trauma. It's probably the reason why it acts the same way as when you play music. I know when my girls were. When my wife was pregnant with my girls, I know I was playing music all the time, and they actually are musical. They've been in band, and they play instruments, and they love music. They've always got music going, different types of music as well. So yes, I totally agree with the fact that, you know, you can pick up on traumas if there's trauma going on within a family or within parents or something like that, and the mum's pregnant with the child. Of course, it can pick up on that trauma. But when you're born, if we look at it as you haven't got the belief systems, because you don't understand any of that. But as you're programmed going through, that's your muck, right? It's the things that we pick up on from them pasts the programs and the belief systems, etc., etc. Some have gone through physical trauma, and then there's the others that have been through the manipulation and control of trauma. And even though they're seen, you know, if you look at one as opposed to the other, they're both trauma, but they're different. And it's the underlying manipulation and control trauma that can really play a number because you don't realize that it's even going on. When you've got physical trauma, you can see it. It's going on right in front of you. You can actually see it. It may be trauma done to you as well. And that trauma you can actually see. But when someone is in therapy and, you know, they could be turning around saying, no, I was all right. But you start looking back and you start looking at some of the manipulations and some of the belief systems and programs and that, you know, it's the very reason why there may be anxieties and depressions and all kinds of other different mental health issues going on within somebody because of the muck, right? But if we don't acknowledge the muck that we've come through, then who are we, right? We're not one without the other. You know, I'm in a position right now where, yeah, of course, I'm very grateful where I'm at. I have a home, I have a family, you know, I have food on the table. I live in a nice house. I mean, I'm not saying that I haven't got it. I'm not blessed by any means. But we didn't get here. My wife and I we didn't just get picked up and dropped into this. There was a lot that we went through, the muck, to get here. And if you're not acknowledging the muck, when you're not feeling good enough of where you're at right now, in a position that you're at right now, could be with your work, right? It could be where you're there and you know, that imposter syndrome can kick in and you're not feeling completely like, oh shit, you know, I'm not good enough. Think back to how you got there, first of all. Yeah. You didn't get picked up and dropped into that position. You had to go through some muck. And that's what the lotus flower is, right? We're looking at the beauty of something, but it had to go through that muck. Now think about this, guys. That muck is the fertilizer that helped that lotus flower grow into the beautiful flower that you see on top of the water. Yeah? So think about this when you're, you know, you may be having an argument with someone, or someone may be upsetting you, especially when it's like at work and that, and you don't really like your job and people around you annoy you, and you know, if you can look at everybody has their muck, yeah, and everybody has their way of dealing with it, and some people are not dealing with it at all. I believe everybody could do with some therapy, I really do, and that's not just because that's what I do for a living. I really do believe it. I think everybody has their muck. And I think everybody can look back and gain some knowledge and some guidance and get some help with that. But when you start looking and pointing fingers at other people for causing your muck, then think again, guys, right? Because nobody is perfect. We don't want to acknowledge some of the things that's happened, maybe in the past, yeah? We don't want to acknowledge the fact that there's been abuse or heavy physical trauma or anything like that. But if we don't start looking at that muck, then we ain't going to see who we really are as a human being now, today. Because we're not acknowledging what has actually happened and what is actually there. If that muck wasn't there with that lotus flower, there's no lotus flower. It doesn't exist. One cannot exist without the other. So if you want to go forward and you want to grow and you want to move into a positive mind, you've got to acknowledge the muck and look at the muck. Because unless you look at what that muck is and start checking that out, you ain't gonna understand why you have the the ways that you have now. And remember, like I say, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a challenge, guys. I'm going to give you a challenge. Within the next day or so, just everybody you meet, yeah, acknowledge that they have their own muck, yeah? You may be seeing someone that you believe has got it all together and is, and they probably have right now. They probably, great job and everything like that, but are they happy? What's their muck? Yeah? And then have pity for the fact that they have their muck just like you have yours. And it'll give you a little bit of an understanding of another human being. And it allows you to calm your mind slightly, yeah? Because everybody wants to be happy, yeah? Everybody wants to be happy. But a lot of people, a big percentage of people, do not want to look back and look at the muck and where they've come from and where they've grown from, right? You didn't get into that position for nothing. It's just like what I do for a living here, guys. I help people out, I guide people. I absolutely love my job. I really enjoy what I do, and there's a reason for that. Because I acknowledge my muck, right? And when you can look back and look at your own muck, then you can see someone else as being growing within that muck too. And when you can start looking at that and you can start looking at somebody else and acknowledging that, hey, no human being is perfect. We're all imperfect human beings, every single one of us. None of us are perfect. Even the lotus flower that's sitting on top of that water, it's not perfect. There's nothing perfect about it. It may have a dead leaf somewhere. It may not be evenly coloured. It might be slightly underneath the water. There's so many different things there to acknowledge. There is no such thing as perfect. In fact, think about this, and this is something that it is a good thing to do for everybody. Take the word perfect right out of your vocabulary. I don't even use the bloody word anymore unless I'm actually trying to explain something around that word, because perfect don't exist. There's standards, but there is no perfect, right? Who is the one to say that something is perfect, right? I know when I was in the kitchens, working in the kitchens, yes, there were standards. There was certain ways and things how they wanted it. But if someone comes up and says, yeah, that's a perfect dish. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. There's always things and ways and, that you can do to improve on what you've got in front of you, right? So there is no perfection, guys. There ain't no such thing. Take the word out of your vocabulary. It's a word that is going to pull you backwards every time, because the fact that it don't exist, but we keep on striving to try and get it. What is it we're trying to get, right? So even the lotus flower isn't perfect. It's grown to where it's at, but it's not perfect, right? So acknowledge your own muck, guys, and acknowledge the fact that other people have their muck, and they're not always there to get one up on you or anything like that. And if they are, what was the muck that's causing them to do that? What are they hiding? What's their insecurities? Yeah? Give them my card, right? Give them my card. Because if someone's there deliberately hurting you, I always think, are they? Why would they be doing that? What is it they're covering up? Are they jealous? Do they not like the fact that you are moving forward? Do they want what you have? And they look at it as, shit, look where you're at and I'm not there. But everybody has their choices, guys. We can either use that muck as our fertilizer and to help us grow, or we can just not acknowledge it and we're walking around in a lie, right? Because then the ego is just going to keep on trying to protect the insecurities that are there, and that is not good for you, and it's not going to be good for other people around you. So if you're getting into those situations, like I say, with people and they're coming off at you a little bit, you know, it could be a bit nasty. Breathe. Acknowledge your own emotions, first of all, because your muck may be connecting with theirs. And then that's triggering, right? That's triggering you back to somewhere. So breathe into it. Look at yourself. Don't look at them. Look at yourself and ask the why. Why am I feeling this way with what they just said? Why am I acting in a certain manner because of what they did? Right? Anger might kick off real quick. Why? Right? Anxiety might start picking up. Why? Because that's your muck. So you can look at that, figure that out, and make that your fertilizer for growth. Or you can completely ignore it and be walking around with that day in and day out. And believe me, it becomes like your groove in a record, right? Because all the while we're staying in that mindset, we're just grooving it out deeper and deeper until it becomes so solid that whenever you may even see a person that looks like another person, and boom, you're going to be triggered off. So start changing your narrative, start looking back, and start using that muck as your fertilizer, guys. I hope everybody has had a good holiday season, and we're gonna leave it at that. I think I've pretty covered what I wanted to cover, and I hope you get some relief out there, guys. Start looking at your muck. Start using that as your fertilizer. Go and check out my YouTube channel, guys, please. I really would appreciate it if you go out there and pass it around and subscribe. Check out my website, mindnutritionforall.com. That's the number 4, guys, the number 4 and all, ALL.com. And let's build this community of going forward in the positives, guys. Let's go.